and welcome back to another episode of Over the Glass. I am your host, Jay.
And I'm other host, Ness.
We hope everyone had a relaxing holiday.
That's right. Holidays usually aren't relaxing.
Well, I don't know. I don't go out to many things these years, so mine is actually like, yes, day off. My mom came by on New Year's Eve. Not New Year's. I'm already ahead of myself. Christmas Eve, and we just chilled, whatever, and then that was it. And I'm like, cool. But yeah, whatever anyone else did, hope it was pleasant. If you don't enjoy family engagements, well, I hope you survived.
Yeah.
Um,
I ate a lot.
Unfortunately, well, sorry that you ate so much food. Um, the Sharks, on the other hand, I mean, look, I know it's frustrating that we're now on a 7-game losing streak or
We're
whatever it
streaking.
is. We're streaking in the wrong direction. Depending on how you look at this season, like I'm kind of just going along for the ride, if I can say that, just because we've seen worse. We know we've seen worse. So even though over the last 7 days we've seen them maybe come out and give us confidence that it's going to be a good competitive game that we could possibly win, and then they give up 3 quick goals in 2 of the 3 games, and just, you know, like I get where people's frustrations are coming from, but I don't get quite as mad during the games because we looked so much worse last season. I I don't know. What are your thoughts on our current dilemma?
I don't even feel like super disappointed. I just it's kind of expected right now. I think it feels better this season because you see them with the effort and like they're fighting until the very end. Whereas last season it was just like 10 minutes in, they're already losing, they gave up. And it's just like 50 minutes of just watching them trying to do something and just smashing into people, not really getting anything done. But this year, specifically with the young guys, you can tell that they're really hungry to get out there and get a win, even if it's not happening. You see the effort, and I think that's the difference.
I think what's also really great is, especially last night, and this is just from day one of him being on the team to now, but particularly last night, I was seeing him. Celebrini was making second and third effort chances. He was particularly physical out there. Like we've seen that in previous games, but last night in particular, like I saw him really like lining up people to hit them, and I'm like, yes. And this is only just like we're not even done with season 1 with him, and this is him from day 1 to now. And you kind of hope that guys could kind of get like on his same page. Like I saw that there were tweets mentioning that he was kind of being really vocal on the bench, kind of like, trying to get the other guys like to wake up and get into this game. And I mean, it's like things like that where I'm like not too bothered that, yeah, we're a rebuild team. We're not doing so great right now in the ability to close out games. We're still struggling to, like, I went through and watched the highlights for the past week's games, and I mean, we're still having areas where people, like, players kind of lose their guy, and those are like the exact moments where, especially teams like, especially with Vegas, they're coming off of like their cup run, and they still have like Mark Stone, they have Eichel. I mean, the couple of goals that were scored on, like especially like Eichel's goal, like I mean, you kind of want Georgiev to have that one, but like dude was doing like 99% of what he could. When you're allowing Eichel to streak into the zone and that close to your goaltender to have all the opportunity to score, and he just managed, like we might not be fans of the Golden Knights, but you have to respect the
Mhm.
fact that Eichel, what? He was a second round, not second, sorry, second overall pick. Is
Yeah.
that correct? Like, you have to respect the fact that this guy is incredibly talented and the ability to hold on to the puck and see that opportunity,
Yeah.
jet the little opening, because Georgiev's skate wasn't flushed against the post. That little opening, he was able to get it around like any other player. Like guy that's getting maybe like half the amount of ice time that Eichel has, probably would have shot it already. Probably would have tried to go like over the pad to get to the open net. But the patience of Eichel to wait and see that opening, I mean, I know the fan base is still recovering from the fact that we traded Blackwood away and not so great feels that we end up getting Georgiev in return. But I still feel very confident and happy about that trade, especially because at the end of the day, we already talked about Blackwood kind of played his way out of a contract here. We saw earlier this week that he got a 5-year contract, a little over 5 mil
Mhm.
with the Avs.
Right.
And I mean, to
We
close
couldn't
out,
have afforded that.
I'm sorry.
I said we couldn't have afforded that.
Yeah, like I mean, I just don't see Greer giving him that, and I don't think that Greer should give him that. But I do feel that Greer's going, you're playing incredibly well. And had he like maybe not been playing out of his mind quite as much, we would have kept him around. But it probably would have been for far less term. We know that he gave Wenberg 2 years at 5 mil. So it's not so much the dollar amount, it's the years. It's the years of the
Mhm.
contract that I feel like we're not in a position yet to be giving out those things, especially in net, because our future, we're wanting Askarov to be that guy that we're going to eventually give those types of contracts to. And had that
Right.
not worked out in terms of getting him, maybe it would have been Blackwood. But this is a situation we're in. We traded him to Colorado because Colorado needs to make the playoffs. They're in a position where they need to make it. And I like, especially during the Vegas game, there was like, I think the first goal, like they crashed the net. And like you saw all the guys like trying to get their sticks in there to prevent any sort of tip or whatever. But at the end of the day, it ended up getting shot in by a Vegas player and it went past Georgiev. I mean, I'm not saying that he's getting like the tougher matchups because I think Askarov got like Vancouver, I believe. So I mean, they're getting he's being put in Askarov's also being put in positions where it's like, oh, like the Oilers game, he got put in position like go against one of the top teams. But had Vanacek not accidentally taken a puck to the face and he's out week to week now because his cheek is fractured,
That's
I
crazy.
like, yeah, it's so unfortunate that dude was just like sitting there and the puck chose
Mind
violence on him.
he's just minding his business.
Bro was just on his day off, just quietly doing stats or whatever they do on the bench and just got smacked in the face. But I have seen some in the fan base talking about, can we just like waive Georgiev? And I'm like, I mean, I don't really feel like I want a a tandem of Vanecek and Askarov. Like, as much as I look forward to seeing Askarov in net, like, it was exciting to watch him in net and see how he plays and whatever, like, I'm fine if he goes down to the CUDA as well, because he will be here eventually, and especially when hopefully Georgiev plays a little better to entice a potential team going to the playoffs that maybe wants like a backup or whatever. And I don't know how a trade like that might work if, whatever the case may be, but they're Vanecek and Georgiev are on expiring contracts. I don't really
Yeah.
see how it makes sense for us to be like, just send Georgiev down. I just want to see more Askarov. Like, we will see more Askarov. I promise you we will, when one of them goes away and then he comes back up, or he doesn't. And like, the CUDA are doing really well. He's going to continue to have success. And I feel way more hopeful that we're probably going to see him way, way more next season. But like, there's really no reason to try and rush things in the hopes that Askarov is the answer right this moment in net, because I think we're looking at it through teal colored Askarov goggles, if that's how you feel about it. I personally don't feel like that is the solution at this moment for why we can't win games. We just like, because we have Georgiev and net versus Askarov. Like, no, there's tons of problems to go around on the ice right now.
Yeah, I think fans are just getting impatient because they're seeing the flashes of great goaltending from this kid. Like last night's game, there's some crazy stops that he made that you don't really see the same effort from Georgiev, which is I think why fans are a little frustrated. Different playing styles and whatever, but it's also like we had such a shitty season last year, and finally seeing like, you know, good goaltending this year. You get rid of that goaltender, you bring in someone who's been struggling. It's frustrating because we're trying to see the light, or I guess we started to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and then now it feels like this is a little bit of a regression because these goaltenders aren't playing up to the same ¿cómo se dice? To the same level as Blackwood was when he was traded, So I understand it because I kind of feel it sometimes too. When I was watching the Knights game, I was getting really frustrated with Georgiev. Like, what are you doing? What is this? But it's like I'm not used to his playing style. I forget how good the Golden Knights are because that first period, it felt like the Sharks were really in it. They were keeping up at a decent pace, and then things fell apart in the third, as they usually do. So.
They let one in, and then the avalanche just came falling down.
Right.
But yeah. Like, I was feeling the same way as you. Like, oh, look at us. Look at us going toe to toe, and then we let one in, and then a couple more in, and then I go, oh, I've seen this movie before.
Too many times.
This happened on Monday. We were gonna watch this movie. I don't want to watch this movie anymore.
And then it happened again yesterday.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like I said, I'm kind of living in the moment. I'm seeing like the efforts, like especially like now that Celebrini and Smith are back on the same line. Oh my God, please hang out more. Because you guys are apparently like, the more you guys hang out, the more your chemistry starts coming together on the ice. That play where
absolutely
Celebrini, actually this wasn't last night, this was against the Knights, where it was like through the neutral zone, Celebrini like tips it off of whatever Knights player had it in the neutral zone, and then it didn't go further enough to somebody, so then he like dove out and hit it again. It went to Smith, and then Smith like backhand no look over to Celebrini, like
the connection, so good.
I mean, even if they didn't score there, I'd be like, you see the potential. They're cooking. This is saying. This did not happen at the beginning of the season. They were still kind of getting their feet wet. And now look where they are. Imagine where they can be at the start of the season next year. Imagine where they could be. This is only their first season in the NHL. Like, it's only just beginning. And we keep going back and saying it was so much worse last season. It was so much worse the last couple of seasons before that. So if you're looking for, I don't know, like if you're looking for some way to ground yourself again, I don't necessarily know if that means going back and looking at the highlights of the awful seasons we had just like 2 or 3 years ago, but it just kind of puts things in perspective that we're cooking. It's a little slow. There's no magic wand that we can wave because they tried to do that like right before the rebuild where they were just like, we just need to get 1 or 2 people, just like insert them into the lineup. That'll be the fix. And it just looked worse and worse and worse. We kept firing coaches, bringing in new ones, expecting that this will be the answer this year, and then it doesn't. It makes it worse. And then the games become unwatchable and everyone on the bench is like frustrated. So I just feel like as frustrating as it is that we can't seem to get a win lately, like I do feel confidence going to come, and I have been excited to see all the little efforts along the up and coming guys. Oh, and then Mukhamadullin got his first NHL goal last night. That's exciting. I'm so excited
Friday.
to see more about with this giant kid because he has been cooking down in the CUDA. He would have been here at the beginning of the season had he, I think he was injured or whatever the case was. So he's here now and he's just getting started. So I just think there's a lot of great things, and I just hope people that are frustrated can kind of come around to realizing there's a lot of great things going on right now.
Yeah, it's just the building blocks going up right now. We're building the foundation, and you're starting to see it like being built little by little, and then sometimes it'll be like a little faster, and then you're like, oh, and then it plateaus again, you know? So it'll be fine. We'll be fine.
Any more thoughts you have on Askarov and his
Uh,
performance these past couple of games?
well, last night, well, because I was finally able to catch a game where he was playing, I can see what you mean. The last time we talked about him, how you you get nervous because he moves a little too slow, specifically when he's out behind the net trying to get the puck and pass it to a teammate. I saw that happening during yesterday's game, where I don't know if his teammates aren't communicating to him that someone's on his ass or if he's literally just taking his time, you know, but he got really close to getting pickpocketed there and he's like way out of the net. So I understand your nervousness, but other than that, I feel this is just from the 2 games that I watched this week, right? I feel more confident with him in net than I do with Georgiev. Man, if that's controversial to say, whatever. But I mean, I guess yeah, it's also 2 different teams. But like, nah, Calgary was tough. They're a fast and a hard team to play against. They were very physical. Whereas the Knights, I feel, are just the fast team and great chemistry all around. Yes, I don't know, man.
Yeah, Nice were fast and have higher skill set, and like Calgary felt like they really came out like cannonballs. And then, well, the Sharks kind of answered back there, like in the
Mhm.
last, half of the third period, like there were a lot more like lining up to hit, and I was really liking seeing that. On the note of Askarov and Georgiev, I like their styles of play for different reasons, and then I don't like their styles of play for different reasons. So I think with Askarov, I was trying to pay more attention to how he moves in the crease, and even on the broadcast, they were talking about that. I think it was during this game where he went behind the net and there was a Flames player that kind of like tangled up with him,
Mm.
and they were saying on the broadcast how he you don't usually see goaltenders like this that will play the puck so much behind the net. And then I think like they were coming in like really quickly. So in that moment, I think like he was just like, yeah, I'm gonna help out. Like he's just very like I like his confidence, but it feels a little reckless, and I'm not sure yet whether I enjoy that. Like I respect his confidence, but I am not sure how much of that recklessness feels necessary.
I
And
feel like this goes against your personality, so I'm not even sure if you'll ever enjoy that.
I saw someone in passing on the Twitters that was comparing him to Marc-Andre Fleury, and I can see that. Some of the way that he moves in the crease, like when I was watching the highlights from last night's game, I don't even know what happened, but like he was like Superman, like laid out in front
Yeah.
of the crease to like cover the puck. And then just some of the ways that he moves in the crease, like I can see the comparison to Fleury. But with that said, I feel way more confident when Fleury does that.
Yeah, well,
Right
Fleury's been doing this forever.
Yeah, if Fleury's doing that, I'm like, yeah, because he'll get it. I know. But with Askarov, I'm like, okay.
It's fine.
Like,
I feel like this is a time for him to do it because the team sucks,
yeah,
like, this is not up to him completely. The
I'm like, bro, do whatever you want to do. This is the time and space to do it because we're really just figuring things out right now. Like the kids are out there and they're just like, just go and play. Even though like, and to go back to the play with the Celebrini and the Smith, the no look backhand, whatever, like as much as I love seeing that, I think the Sharks have been guilty one too many times, too many passes. Not in this case though, not in that
Yeah.
particular sequence. But sometimes they're getting a little too cute. They're passing a million times. And I'm not usually one to say shoot, but there have been other times where I started yelling at my TV, being like, oh my God, can you just
Shoot the puck.
please shoot it. Please just get like it's just because they just kept, well, we'll just keep and like time is running out on the power play. Please
Yeah.
just one
Right.
shot. But anyways, but going back to Askarov and Georgiev, but there is an aspect to Georgiev's game where I do feel confident with him in the net. But I feel like, how do I put it? I'm not so bothered with Askarov's style in the net. I actually would probably prefer his style over Georgiev's, but I do feel confident with how Georgiev is just overall how he plays. Because
Mm.
Askarov's a little more of an anomaly right now. And I think that's also due to, I mean, he's only still played a handful of NHL games. Like, I do think there's bits of his game that need a little bit more refining, and it'll come in time. And this may just be from the little bit that I like was reviewing the plays over the last week, but there's times when Askarov will make a save, and I feel like he's relying more on the defense to help him out more than he comes back up to be ready for the second and third opportunities. And I feel like Georgiev's play, since he's played more in the NHL, he's a little more like conditioned to be like active, like on his skates.
You think it's like his rebound control he needs to work on?
Yeah, I'm fine with, give him all the games, whatever. This is the time to do it. But I feel like he definitely needs more work in that area, the rebounds and like being obviously the defense needs to help him clear out the puck after he makes the initial saves and stuff. But it's just like little things where I'm like, that'll come around. Like I'm not bothered that he's like not doing it perfectly right now. But I guess going back to folks being like, oh, let's just waive Georgiev and have Askarov an advantage. I'm like, I mean, if it ended up working out that way, I wouldn't be mad, but I don't really think that's the solution. Like Georgiev obviously has been in this league long enough for like sensible reasons. Like they're not just going to keep a goaltender up just because, well, you've been here for X amount of years, so I guess you just stay up here or whatever. Like we've seen what happened with like Campbell. I mean, I think he's still down in like the AHL, and he just kind of had like a really bad downward spiral after his time with the Leafs, and then unfortunately even with like Martin Jones. So it's not like goalies
Where is
can't.
he?
I don't know, and it's like, yeah, like goaltenders can, rise to like their highest level, and then they can like drop just basically like free fall in their career. And I don't think that's necessarily happening with Europe. I just think he's in a position where he's sort of just struggling with his game. And during his time here, hopefully we can help him kind of like rediscover his, just to refine those areas. But anyways, that's kind of my extended feels on the goaltenders. I think they're both doing fine. I'm not so worried that right now we're losing, but I think if we start getting into the double digits, I think that would probably not be so good.
Right.
But let's take a little moment to talk about our sponsors.
We're sponsored by Game Time. This is an app I use pretty frequently whenever I go to Sharks game. Pretty reliable. I'm getting ready to buy some tickets to possibly go to Pride Night coming up for the Sharks. They do have these Game Time picks that give you the best options for the specific game you're choosing, best deals for whatever seat you're looking for or you might want to buy. They have something called a super deal that gives you basically the best value. I also really like to use the feature with the all-in pricing, so I know exactly how much money I'll be paying instead of like being surprised by all the fees at the end. It also has a feature for the seat view, so like panoramic, click the seat, you can see exactly what it is that you're going to be looking at if you're sitting there. To take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks, you can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code with THPN for $20 off, which is actually a pretty good deal. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. That's so funny. If you want to do it online, go to gametime.co. Just remember to put in the code, get your $20 off, support us in the process. Your favorite podcast and all that.
It's the most wonderful time of the year for getting in on all hoops, football, and hockey action at DraftKings Sportsbook. In the season of giving, we're being gifted college football and basketball, pro football and basketball, and pro hockey too, almost 24/7. And here's a gift for all new customers. Bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5. Happy holidays from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino Resort, Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gambling resources, see dkng.co/bball.
And if you're looking at the money line for Monday, the New York Rangers are at a plus 160 against the Florida Panthers at negative 122. The Predators are plus 142 against the Winnipeg Jets at minus 170, and the Utah Hockey Club at negative 110 against Seattle Kraken at negative 110. Yeah, that last one seems like a toss-up. They were kind of like, meh. Like, just flip a coin. I don't know. But to close out some of our Sharks hockey talk, one thing that we didn't get to touch on last week was there's some very casual chat about giving Zetterlund a contract extension. What are your thoughts on that?
I actually didn't get a chance to look at this quite yet, but I would love for them to extend this guy. He's been playing really well for the Sharks. He's been a pleasant addition to the team. You know, how do I say this? He was part of the Timo Meyer trade, which was again one of those trades where we knew it was going to happen. Fans understood it, but Meyer was a fan favorite also, so it was a little heartbreaking to see him go. But the haul that Mike Greer was able to get in return kind of made up for it a little bit. Once we saw Zetterlund start playing on the team, we could see a little bit of his potential. I think he struggled a little bit when he first got here, which makes sense because new team, new environment, like you don't know these guys, you need to build chemistry, whatever. Last season you started coming in, you saw him coming into his like game a bit more. He created great chemistry with Eklund and Granlund, the blend line that we like to call it. They play really well together. And this season, currently, he's playing with Celebrini and Smith. And they look great. They're a very fast line. They seem to communicate really well. Their chemistry is like on point, their connection. Like some of those passes these kids are making to each other and actually the puck is hitting their sticks and they're doing something with it. It's really exciting to see. So I would really love for them to keep Zetterlund. He's a fun player to watch for sure.
Okay, my follow-up question to you, when this news came out, I was hanging out with a friend. We went to whatever game was that night, and he wanted to have a discussion about this. And he asked me how I would feel about like signing Zetterlund to 8 years, and I was just like, like I was like so uncomfortable. I'm like 8 years.
It's a long time.
And I'm just like, no, I'm like, nope. I was not down for it. He's on the other side of the coin. He's down for it. Like, he's like, give him 8, whatever. I'm like, I just can't wrap my head around it. Like, but so I mean, I think for me, I would feel comfortable somewhere in the middle range. I think 5 is like the highest I would go.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about it?
I think 8 is a really long time. It kind of goes into the same conversation we were having with Blackwood, where we're not in a position to offer long-term contracts like that. Obviously, a forward is different than a goalie, but 8 years is too long, I think. I don't think he's played well enough to earn something that long. I agree with the 5. If they push it 6, but that seems a little long. Especially with the way Greer has been doing his contracts. I probably agree like 4 or 5. I'd feel comfortable with that.
Yeah,
because you also have to consider that Eklund's going to need a contract within the next couple of years or 2 or whatever it is. They're going to want to keep him. And then how long are the entry level contracts? Like 3 years?
Offhand, I want to say yes.
So, like, in, 3 years, you're going to have to offer a new contract to Smith and Celebrini. Like, these are things that people need to consider, too. And those are kids you're going to want to keep on this team.
Yeah, I mean, we just came off of like we're still like all of our retention slots are, and it's like a different story with the guys that are on our retention slots. Obviously, Eric Carlson, he needed to be moved. Like it wouldn't have made any sense for him to stick around like during, like it would have been extra exciting during the season, but given that he would have to literally play like every game because you're paying him like 11.5 million, right? That's how much he's
Yeah.
made. Like
Mhm.
then that means he takes a slot from from a guy who's up and coming, needs the experience, the ability to come up to the NHL and then things like that. So I mean, obviously he needed to be moved. So we're still paying that off for like the next couple of years. I think offhand, Brent Burns comes off the books after this season. So I mean, we're coming off of like getting out of debt.
Yeah.
And and I go back to saying it's a different story with these up and coming young guys. Obviously, they're more of a, a higher investment and I think low risk than an aging player on a like no movement clause, modified no, like those like words like scare me now. Like especially when like Igor Shesterkin, full 8 years, no movement clause, and I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
that feels scary, but not really our problem with that. That's a whole nother problem that, you know what? I'm over here with the great vibes. So um but yeah, and I said, but like I really don't think it would happen that Greer would give him 8 years. But if he were to somehow decide that that just feels right, I'm gonna trust in the process. It's gonna be really hard, but I'm gonna trust in the process. And I feel like, I mean, even though we're watching this losing streak right now, and it kind of gives us feelings of like, yeah, we're not like the pieces are there, they're cooking, but we're not quite there yet. But if the GM were to, and we know how he's been doing things, he's been giving these short contracts, he's been making these really great trades in the off season. Like it's only like his third year, his first ever NHL team that he's the general manager. And like if he were to make that type of move, like I would have to assume that he's seen something that we're not.
Right.
That would be the message that I would get from that, but I don't think that's really the case. I don't know if he's seen what's going on right now. Not saying that I don't know if I could say that we should be in a better position than where we are currently. I think where we are right now is it's actually further than I expected in terms of like the individual effort on the ice. But I'm not too surprised that we're like 31st in the league. Like, I mean, I think people projected us to be more like higher up than last season, but I'm not exactly like upset about that. So I I think things are going about where, if not better than I kind of like anticipated things. But whatever ends up happening with the Zetterlund contract, like I think it'll be a bit of a statement of how Greer feels about how he is seeing the future of this team. And I think it's less about Zetterlund's performance and more about just kind of like the things you sort of brought up about how we have all these other people who are coming down the line. It's not just Zetterlund whose
Right.
contract is expiring and he needs a re-up and everything like that. It's just all these little moving parts. So if it's 5 years or less, I feel like that's a good next contract for Zetterlund.
Yeah. What do you think the AAV would be though?
Ooh, I don't know, with like the salary cap going up, and I mean, I think so let's see. Wenberg is getting 5 right now. Wenberg's getting 5 at 2 years. And if Zetterlund gets something like 5 years, I think it's maybe like half that, somewhere in like the 2-3. But if he goes 3 years, I think it's on the higher end of that 2-3.
Because currently it says he's making 1.45 million.
Yeah, I think that's like a good bump. That's a decent
making
bump.
like 3.
Yeah, I think that would be like fair.
Maybe I could see him signing a shorter contract, like 3 years, with a decent AAV, just to kind of see where we're at in a few years before, if he decides he wants to stay and like where the team's at type thing. We're not really in a position to be signing those long-term contracts. Like, how do you know you're going to want to be here in 8 years? What if we continue sucking for those 8 years,
Yeah. So Zetterlund, where is he on this? Yeah, I mean Zetterlund's an RFA, so we're gonna have our first opportunity with him, and then like I'm not too worried that they're gonna not be able to come to an agreement. But I think it'll be interesting because he's gonna be outside of Askarov. I mean, Askarov got extended and it made sense because we're investing in seeing how he meshes and giving him the opportunity that the Preds didn't want to give him. So when we did that contract extension, I'm like, yeah, like obviously you give him a couple of years, give him more time here and whatever. But Zetterlund's going to kind of be like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but he's going to be like one of the first young guys that are really going to, under Mike Greer, that's going to have this opportunity to have a potential long-term contract that isn't just kind of like, obviously Wenberg to Foley, they're kind of here for the veteran presence and sign short contracts so then they could potentially be movable if for whatever reason. But Zetterlund's not really in that case. He's kind of one of the guys that we're investing in long term, and he's one of the first that is going to come up to that opportunity where this is a contract that you're really putting a lot of thought and like long-term investment into this player who's obviously, like we already talked about, when he first got here, kind of getting his feet wet. And now like even though he's playing with Smith and Celebrini, like I kind of feel like with all the line changes that have had to be made to either generate scoring opportunity or injuries that have happened along the way, like Zetterlund's shown that you can kind of like put him sort of with anybody and then they'll figure it out. So I mean that's good for us in the long run.
Yes.
So the game against Vegas marked the return of our beloved Tomas Hertl. I don't know if they did they show it on the broadcast because I missed
I also missed like the beginning.
So if anyone saw it, I hope it was great. I'm sure it was a lovely tribute video. Obviously, Tomas being drafted by the Sharks, spending many seasons with us, and
11.
a difficult departing as he went to our frenemies down south and across the state line. We knew he was going to eventually be leaving because it didn't make sense with the direction of the team, but we kind of didn't love that it ended up that way.
Right.
But it is what it is. I'm happy that I didn't really see him for like 90% of the game on the ice. Just in flashes.
Right.
But I did see that our friend Alex Snipe City 420 did share the Instagram story from Anita Hertl, who the wife of Tomas Hertl, where she had a screenshot, and down below it said, I think once a shark, always a shark. And, their hearts are, if we were in a different position, obviously Tomas signed that original 8-year contract with us because he wanted to stay in San Jose, and things ended up in a different direction. And the team's got to do what's best for them. And then also Tomas, he's still got a lot of good years and wants to get back into the cup. We're not going to be there anytime soon. So we've got to go and make a trade. But it was good times when he was here. So you want to kind of share, yes, you want to kind of share some of the information that came out during Sheng's article?
Yeah, so Shane got an opportunity to interview him on his return on Friday because the first time the Sharks played the Knights this season, Hertl was injured, and so he actually didn't travel with the team. So this was his first time back. It's been 10 months since the trade. He hasn't come to San Jose since, and he was able to ask him a few questions about, how the trade went down, how things are going in Vegas, and all the good stuff that fans always want to know about during these things. So, one of the things he asked him was how hard the decision was for him to waive his no move clause, like we talked about earlier. Signed that 8-year contract, no move, and we were like, well, this doesn't seem appropriate for where the team's at, but we love the guys, so we were hoping that something would change with him at the helm. It didn't, obviously. He sort of gives really short answers, but he said that he felt like this was an opportunity he couldn't give up when he heard that Vegas was calling. His agent was letting him know what was going on. He still felt like he's in his prime. And so he felt like this was an opportunity that he had to take because this is a team that just won the Stanley Cup the year prior when he was first traded. And, that gives him the best, like one of the best chances at winning this cup. Something that all these hockey players want to do, right? So you can't blame the guy for leaving, going to a team that has that opportunity. It sucks that it's our rival, sure, but it is what it is. He also asked him about, Shang asked Hertl about parting ways being good for both sides, the Sharks and for him. And he agreed because the Sharks were in a rebuild and, had Hertl not left, I'm not sure what our odds would have been to get Celebrini, honestly, because he's such a great player and he was putting up points. And yes, the Sharks did suck horrendously, but you just don't know. Like every point that you miss counts or doesn't count, I guess. But now, you got Celebrini, you got Smith. They're both on the team now and they're doing great. So you can't really be mad about that, how this played out. And then, he also asked him like when he first heard about the Golden Knights' interest, and he said that it was before or around the All-Star game. So as early as January of this year, he was hearing things from his agent, and he wasn't sure how serious it was. There was kind of just rumors, but obviously you hear something like that and then you start thinking about the possibility, like, should I do something like should I stay? Should I go? And then asked him about his reception he thinks he was going to get from Sharks fans. And it's so funny to hear this side from players, like, oh, I don't know, I hope it's okay. Like, this dude doesn't really understand how loved he was in San Jose or what, because he said, I hope it will be good. It was a nice 11 years, but it's maybe up to the fans now. Nothing I can do about it really right now. And it's like, dude, we love you. Like, there's no reason for you to be like, I don't know. And I'm sure he got a really warm welcome. Like I said, I didn't catch the beginning of the game, so I didn't see them play the video for him. I didn't see any videos posted on the internet about his reaction, so I don't know. I'm sure it was fine. I'm sure it was great. Probably got a standing ovation.
So it was, I believe, a sellout crowd, so at least that was good. hopefully I didn't get those two. I know that we at least had one, and it might have been last night's game, but I
think it was
pretty
last night's
sure.
because there was a
Okay.
giveaway.
Right. So, but it did look like there was a good amount of people in the stands. And I did see I think after the video, he came out onto the ice and, saluting the fans and things. And he looked very, obviously big smile, as we all remember. Wish he was still wearing the better jersey, but, it is what it is. And, like you already mentioned, like, had he like wanted to stay just because he, loved the team so much, like obviously he would have played to the highest of his performance. Maybe we would have gotten like a handful more wins that could potentially take us out of the getting a better position in the lottery to get Celebrini. And obviously, if you think about it, you mentioned he's in his prime. It does not make sense for our timeline right now to have someone of his caliber who could have really, like, had we not made that trade, and it's already been mentioned a number of times. I know we mentioned it here on this podcast, that if you look at the movement of those pieces, the players being moved, the draft picks being moved, Hertl's trade pretty much gave us Askarov, which is what, like, obviously we still have work to do across the board, but goaltending was still one that was like, how many goaltenders have we kind of been like in a carousel with over the last, I want to say, like 5 years or whatever it is. Like it has not felt all that stable. Like you haven't been able to look at put as much confidence as we can put right now in Askarov. If that trade doesn't happen to give us the ability to acquire him, like if you need to choose between Hertl or Askarov, like it just makes sense that unfortunately we have to part ways with Hertl, but we end up getting essentially Askarov, and it works out for everybody. Obviously, Askarov wants the opportunity. The Preds weren't going to give it to him. Hertl needs that opportunity to go out and fulfill a dream of getting a chance to get a cup. And we're just not going to be able to give that to him. It just does not line up. So it sucks, but we had him for 11 seasons. It was great time. We got to see him just, blossom into this amazing player. He obviously, like, I remember the first, like, couple of seasons when he'd get interviewed and he's like talk so quickly, and then he'd be like, yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
His English has gotten so good.
Yeah, it's just like, you're welcome, Vegas. We got him prepared for you or something. I don't know. But yeah, it sucks. Just go ahead.
When you put it like that, you basically trade Hertl for Askarov. I mean, it makes all the sense in the world. I actually hadn't made that connection because I forgot who we got in the Hertl trade. Like I know we got a first round prospect, like a kid who was drafted in the first round from Vegas. I can't remember his name, and I don't know if he ever did play for the Sharks at all, or if he was stayed down in
for a couple games, but I know we did trade him off. And I mean, like, Vegas is in a position where they can trade. Like, I mean, we mentioned either last episode or previously that the standings in the AHL, the Henderson Silver Knights are like horrendous. They're at the bottom of the league, and that's because like I find it really fascinating that a franchise like the Carolina Hurricanes have found that, like, they're creating magic in a way that, like, both their farm team and their NHL team can be so competitive. Like, obviously, we've been in a situation where it's like our prospect pool is crap. Our big boy club is also crap. Like, we need to turn this around. And that's what we've been doing. We've been starting to refine and retool rebuild, everything for the longevity of our franchise versus Vegas. Like Vegas is trying to have success now, continue to have success now that they're like, oh, you like we want that. Oh, you want this dude that's in our like minor league team? Fine. We don't need him. Like he's ready to go, but we don't need him because we're just so lucky to have so much going on up here right now. Like they're like, yeah, whatever. We need the dude that like they're ready to buy.
Right.
And so if Greer wasn't playing like 4D chess with that trade, like I think I would have been okay with sorry to the dude that we ended up getting. I can't remember your name, but he ended up not really sticking around because I don't think that was like the end goal. He was used yet, then to be moved somewhere else so we could continue to build up to what it was eventually going to be. And I think it's like so exciting because even when we had the Blackwood trade, I've already mentioned that I'm like only
okay, but now what?
So I'm like, yeah, now what? What are you gonna do with that? Like it's really exciting.
It's actually really fun to see like Greer's plans moving in the direction that he wants them to. Like once you start to see the pieces fitting and like you're starting to understand where he's going with things, it's like a puzzle. It's like, what are you gonna do next? Like
he's not even
it's like
you're zoomed in so closely to that one move, and he's like got the entire thing already. Like he's building.
It's like
4 steps
that
ahead.
meme you use of him like chewing on his gum or whatever, looking over.
that poker face that he's got. He's not even done yet.
Right.
It's so exciting.
It's so fun.
Speaking of fun things, the Sharks PR Twitter put out among the NHL rookies, Macklin Celebrini is currently first in goals with 12, tied for first in points with 27, first in points per game, 1.00, first in even strength points with 19, and first in even strength goals with 8, tied 22nd in goals played at 27. And I did also see a graphic that was also lining him up with along the similar wavelength of rookies. I mean, he's tied right now with Michkov. Every now and then I see chatter, and it's not just within our fan base, but just like fan bases in general that are kind of like at the bottom, like, in the same position of us trying to build up their team. And anytime you see something with Michkov doing like amazing things over in Philadelphia, and then they're being like, and our dude over here that like we took instead, like, bro wanted to go to Philadelphia. They were doing stuff behind, like, you were never going to get him. Stop making yourself sad by thinking your franchise like shot itself in the foot because they went with another guy. Like, be happy with your guy because Michkov didn't want you.
Right. He played his own game, and I've heard that he's kind of fallen off a little bit. So Macklin has taken over he's a leader in goals among rookies right now. He's tied with 27 points with Michkov, which is crazy because there's game differentials where Michkov has played more games. Macklin has only played 27. So Macklin's a point per game player currently. When was the last time the Sharks have had one of those? Anyways, what I have been seeing is people saying, "Oh, Lane Hudson is better because he's a defenseman." The kid has 26 points. It's pretty impressive for a defenseman. Like, let's be honest. 26 points. I don't know how many games he's played, but I've also seen some discourse in the Twitters that like he doesn't play great defense because he's basically a forward. That's how he's putting up so many points. So I don't know. I am biased because the Sharks haven't had good stuff happening for the team in a long time, and it would be really nice to see this kid winning a Calder Cup. Calder Cup, winning the Calder Trophy. It'd
be impressive if he won the Calder Cup. on his
Not-
off days, he's just like slotting himself in with the Cuda.
Right.
Like, who's this random kid? Like, who's this ringer out on the ice?
Can you imagine? Be killing it. Anyways, so I guess so the top 5 rookies are Macklin at the top, Michkov right there with him with the same points, Lane Hudson just under. We got Maxim, I don't know how to say his name, Saiplikov on the Islanders with 19 points, and then Logan Stankoven off from the Dallas Stars with 17. So I remember Nate he was like talking a big talk about this Stankoven kid, saying like, oh, he might be up for the Calder, blah, blah, blah. Listen, Nate.
No. Shots fired right now.
I'm just kidding. I was just gonna catch a stray right now. No, I it's just really
We're
interesting.
gonna
'cause,
lose a subscriber after this episode.
I don't usually pay attention to the Calder race because like the Sharks are never in it, right? Like what would I have to pay attention to that for? And now I'm paying a little bit closer attention. But yeah, I thought the way Nate and Jude were talking about this Stankoven kid at the beginning of the season, I really thought that he was gonna put up a bigger fight than he currently is. But we are only about maybe halfway through the season, not even. And there's still time. We'll see. We'll see where this ends up. I still okay. I just want to have this discussion because I have not really kept up with any of these other rookies. I only watch Celebrini because he's on the Sharks. But do you have any thoughts on like who the better player actually is, just from standing on the outside and looking in on the way these kids are playing?
I mean, to be honest, not anything that I can like confidently put out there because, like you, I've just been hyper focused on Macklin Celebrini. Obviously, we're catching Sharks games and we have more content to back up like our feelings in regards to Celebrini's performance and potential to get the Calder. My information with these other guys are purely from a fantasy standpoint. I have Lane Hudson on one of my teams. He looks like I know that at the beginning of the season, I don't believe he was on power play 1, but he has since been promoted and he's kind of like stuck around there. I feel like the Stars are kind of going through I don't know, they've been like, I mean, like Robertson hasn't been doing too great. The original, like Robertson, Hintz, I mean, they used to have Pavelski there before he retired. And so, things have been kind of changing with that team. So I think
It's the
their
Pavelski
chemistry,
effect.
I guess
Pavelski
so.
leaves and the team crashes.
So I don't know in terms of, obviously when we watch Celebrini, like you can kind of put as like the way it looks like strictly for Celebrini, you're not trying you don't have a line and you're just trying to see where Celebrini slots in. You're putting people with Celebrini. Like he's the anchor for the line. You just need to slot in and like see if you stick with him. So he's driving the line versus particularly with like Michkov and Stankoven, like I don't really know if that's the case with their teams. I mean, I feel like given that these players have a high ceiling, that's kind of the feeling that you would sort of have. Like this is like a up and coming superstar who you're probably trying to slot in dudes who could play with them, but I'm not necessarily sure if that's the case with these other teams that it don't particularly follow quite as well. But in terms of the Stars and the Flyers on the outside looking in, just like us, they're kind of juggling through their lines. Like I think the Flyers are kind of struggling on their power play. I want to say that the Stars are probably struggling with their power play too. So it's hard to say without without like dedicating time to watch these different teams. But with all that said, if they're all kind of in the same boat where they're kind of like not like engines going in the right direction, these rookies are going to kind of have to stand out among the pack and drive the play. And you already pointed out that, Celebrini, the first game that he had with the Sharks, and then he spent some time being injured. He came back, and now as of the 28th, he was tied with Michkov. And I believe it's because he scored last night, he's now leading that. He's played less games than Michkov. And depending on how these teams play, how these rookies stand out among the pack, I think that's really going to end the day. That's going to be the difference with who ends up getting the Calder. And of course, we're biased and we think Macklin's going to do it.
No, from the things that I've heard, it sounds like Celebrini actually seems like the more complete player because he's not only, driving plays a lot of the times, he's also going back and playing defense. And like you mentioned earlier in this episode, where he's giving that second and third effort to get that puck back if he loses it, or to defend. And from what I've heard about Michkov is that he doesn't like to defend at all. And there was that whole thing where he, the one time he decides to defend, it was to take the goal away from his own teammates. So, call me a hater, but I think Celebrini
so just other little tidbits that we can look at. Michkov doesn't play as many minutes out on the ice. Like if I'm just looking at a glance, last night he played like, and I don't know,
20.
I'm sorry,
Celebrini.
Michkov.
Oh,
he played last night. Time on ice was 9 minutes. The game before that was 11 and a half minutes. He played a lot more the previous game. So I don't know if it's just that they're kind of rolling out all their lines and what that's all about. So Celebrini, he's playing mostly like anywhere between, let's see, the lowest he's played lately he's been playing close to like 19 to 21 minutes. Mm-hmm. So, that like he's on our first power play. Michkov, I believe that he's also on their first power play. I don't believe Stankoven is on the Stars' first power play. So, it's a lot of these opportunities that are also not there for Stankoven, 14 minutes, 17 minutes, 15 minutes. So, right now, honestly, the Sharks being 31st in the league, Celebrini's making opportunities for himself, and he's being rewarded with more ice time. And like you said, he's playing in every area of the ice. I remember I saw some mention about that or whatever, and I texted one of my friends going, I wonder how much. Oh, I think I was looking at one of like those stat things talking about like percentage of this and that, whatever. And Celebrini's defense was like quite high. And I said to my friend, I wonder what McDavid's card looks like. Because we know like McDavid, he's going in there, he's in charge of getting the puck to the net, scoring, blah, blah, blah. But we have heard that McDavid doesn't really play defense. Like that's everyone else's job. He's out there to, score the goals and whatever. But Celebrini wants to be like the all-around player. Like he's hitting, he's defending, he's making the second, third efforts, he's getting back, he's scoring, blah, blah. Like the kid wants to be he wants to bring the Sharks to success. And you're seeing that like every night versus these other guys. I can't really say whether they're doing all that. And, obviously you can play less time on ice and still make a difference. Like one thing I wanted to point out was that like I've enjoyed seeing Cunnin do much better this season. Like
Mhm.
he's not the most graceful player out there. He definitely looks like he kind of reminds me of okay, I lost my train of thought. But like I think I'm mixing up the player I'm thinking of with someone else, so that's why I don't want to say anything. But like the way that he plays, it's not as graceful, but like he has a high work ethic. It's just that his ability to complete and find the back of the net or get it on net, things like that have improved from last season. And we do know that he was only given the 1 year contract and he was given an A. So they're saying, hey, we see your potential. You just need to show us that you can continue to get to the next level so that you can earn your next contract. And this is your pretty much your audition season. And I think he's stepping up. So even though like Cunnin obviously doesn't play as much on the ice as Celebrini does, but even if you're not playing that much on the ice, you can still make the most of that time that you have. Like a Nico Sturm who's playing like on the fourth line these days. And like, well, last night he punched some dude in the face for something happened. I can't remember now, but he stepped up. And I mean, Sturm's playing like less
I
than
think
10
it was
minutes.
the hit on Kovalenko or something. He went in there and defended him.
So
But yeah.
it's all about how you utilize your time on the ice. And we're biased, but we feel like Celebrini's making the most of it right now. So
yeah.
and a couple of other things. We've already mentioned that I'm a big fan of Zayne Parekh. I was really hoping we could get him last draft, but you know, it is what it is. We still managed to get a really great defenseman. Greer made amazing moves to get us into that position, but Zayne Parekh, he was snuffed from the Canadian World Juniors team. One of their defensemen went down. I'm not sure if it was before or after this game against Latvia. Was not able to watch it, but Latvia did beat Canada, and it made its way onto Twitter that Zayne Parekh liked the Instagram post showing the final score. And I'm just kind of here for the pettiness because, yeah, you should have put him on your team, but you didn't and you lost. So boo hoo to you.
Honestly, I love it because I feel like like most hockey players wouldn't do anything like this out of disrespect or whatever. But this new generation doesn't care. They're like, man, you did me
You're
dirty.
like,
I'm gonna do you dirty right back. Like this is dumb.
this is the equivalent of the emoji with the painting the nails. Oh, I see. You guys lost. Okay.
All right. That's funny.
And finally, if you're still feeling down in the dumps and you try to bring a negative into a positive, I was just thinking earlier this morning, how many what is the NHL the 5 longest active playoff droughts in the NHL, and this was put together by Daily Faceoff in August. As we do know, we're not the only franchise that's going through a rebuild. At number 5 is us. We're
Yay.
the baby
Made the
franchise
list.
that's going through the rebuild at 5 seasons. Number 4 is our rivals down in SoCal, the Anaheim Ducks. We know they've been going through it for a little while there. They're at 6 seasons. At number 3 is the Ottawa Senators at 7 seasons. At number 2 is the Detroit Red Wings at 8 seasons, who just fired their coaching staff and hired Tom McClellan, long run with the Sharks. We originally acquired him from Detroit. He was the assistant out there during their amazing cup run back in the day. And apparently they feel like we just need some of that back. So they hired him. He's the new coach for Detroit Red Wings. They're kind of in that. I mean, I don't follow this team, but they've got quite a number of talented players on their roster. Maybe it's just the curse of giving Patrick Kane a contract, but that's just my feelings. But anyways, they're kind of feeling like we're not doing what we need to do this season, and therefore we need to change our coach. So that's what they did, because they're in an 8-season drought of not seeing the playoffs. And finally, we have the Buffalo Sabres at 13 seasons. Let that sink in. 13 seasons. I'm sorry to break it to Sharks fans, but we are kind of spoiled. And I'm sorry if you weren't here through the better half of the 2 decades where we were seeing the NHL playoffs every season. I'm sorry. It is painful to be like not getting to see the extra bit of hockey after April and stuff, but we could be the Buffalo Sabres is all I'm saying. We could be them. 13 seasons without seeing the playoffs. And speaking of 13, they broke their 13-game losing streak this past game against, I can't remember what team they went against, but like they were really struggling. And I think they also don't really know what to do in their goalie situation. I just feel like last season they were going through like 3 different goaltenders. Same thing with the Detroit Red Wings. They were going through 3 different goaltenders. So 13 seasons, problems along the way. They can't seem to get to home.
I'm just laughing at what this guy wrote in here was the last time Buffalo made the playoffs, Macklin Celebrini was 4 years old. Just to put things into perspective. And then he goes, the Sabres have made 8 coaching changes since 2011, cycling through so many that they've come all the way back to the bench boss who last took them to the playoffs in
Oh my God. See, the Red Wings saw that and went, that's the answer.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm not saying
it could be worse.
I'm not saying like if you're feeling upset that you want the Sharks to get a win, I want to get the Sharks a win. But I think we're in a good spot still. We're in a very good spot. Macklin's doing amazing things. Smith's doing amazing things. We've got veterans that, if they can get their crap together a little more, they could continue to do amazing things. And at the end of the day, we could be the Buffalo Sabres. So if we're like a couple more seasons down the line, close to 5 seasons down the line of this rebuild, and we're still 30, like way down in the league, then I think that's cause for being very upset that this is like we should at least be kind of hovering in the middle of the pack. And if we're continuing to be down there, continuing not to be able to close out games that we've managed to stay competitive in, I guess that's kind of where I'm at. Like that's my feeling. Like I'm gonna give it a couple more seasons. Right now, I think we're fine. If we're looking at the standings right now, I mean, Chicago, like, I don't remember the last time I saw anything related to Connor Bedard outside of all of the promoing that they're doing with the Winter Classic. And of course, he's getting all of like the sponsor deals and stuff. And he's being put like the face of the NHL, blah, blah, blah. Outside of all that, I've seen a lot more like Sportsnet and like the main NHL Twitter and like highlight reels having Macklin Celebrini in it. Like they're
Right.
taking notice of Macklin. They're impressed. And I feel like that's always worth a little more than when we hear it within our own, like, you know, beat reporters and local media. When it starts getting to outside of our little, you know, space, that's where I'm like, we're doing pretty good. I feel good about this because we're 31st, and then Chicago's, I mean, I know they have games in hand, but right above us are the Predators, and they just signed Saros to his brand new contract, and they're not doing so hot. I mean, the Sabres are right above them. Detroit's right above them. The Ducks are right above them. Montreal, I mean, like, we could be in a situation. New York Rangers are right down here with the rest of us. So, they're like fan base as a whole are not doing so great about being down here. So I think we're doing okay for this season. Honestly, just a lot of good things. If we can get a couple wins here, I think that'll right the ship a little bit for the fan base. But I think we're okay. And that's all I have to say about that.
Everything's gonna be all right.
If we can't break this and we surpass a 13-game losing streak in the Sabres, then maybe we can panic a little bit, being like, can we just get one win? Just one.
We'll be fine. Things are looking
We'll be fine, guys. We'll be fine. All right. Any closing thoughts?
No, not today.
Okay. Well, thanks as always for listening in. I'm your host, Jay.
And I'm Ness. Happy New Year! That's my closing thoughts. I forgot. It's coming up.
All right. Till next episode. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.